Okie dokie. It says we're live. You know, the problem is, I can't see where I'm supposed to talk to you people. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's just find the chat now. You on the watch page? Hold on, I might have it. I might have it. Hey, what's up? Okay, I do have it. Let me just pause my end here. So real quick, because I don't know how long this is going to work for and if it's going to look good. Last night, the tests that we did were not too promising. 360 video is very new, it's very gimmicky, and the hardware that's available, unless you really want to drop some serious cash, is not that great. So I'm just doing this for fun, just because it's cool. The tests last night were funny, some of the responses. I'm not, excuse me, I'm not looking to replace my regular camera. This is just, you know, for Q&A. So I'm going to look at the chat. Excuse my voice, little throat action here. Coffee will help. So I did find the chat. I figured we could do just kind of a little total like informal Q&A here, just for fun. And while we're talking, you could look around the shop and see what's going on, which is kind of neat. Oh, and by the way, if you're new to this and you don't understand what this is, most devices, there might be things that don't work. With your mouse onto the screen and move around the shop, or if you've got, you know, your phone nearby, you can use it to swipe, or even just with the gyroscope deal, move it around like this and actually look around the shop 360 degrees, which is pretty cool. So again, I don't plan on replacing my camera with this. I just thought this might be fun once in a while to do in a live format like this, as opposed to, you know, trying to actually film a show like this. I don't think that would work very well. So yeah, you know, the problem is I don't know what the deal is with the focus and the clarity. This camera is supposed to be 1080p. Well, 1080p is great if you don't compress the crap out of the you know, the footage. So I think this is just highly compressed, and there's not a whole lot that I could do about it, sadly. So have a look around, folks. This is my shop, in case you haven't seen it at all these different angles. It's not as big as people think it is sometimes. Every time someone comes to visit, they always think it's larger than it really is. But I mean, it's still a good sized shop. It just tends to look larger in video than it does in person. So maybe, I don't know, maybe this helps or hurts that. I don't know. So I don't know. If you guys don't have any questions for me, then I will just sit here and scratch my butt the whole time. How's that? Hold on. Got a scratch right here. There we go. Feels good. So I've been on a 18-day road trip with the family. It's been keeping me busy. The summer I've been, as far as video goes, somewhat unproductive. A lot of times the video work that I do is stuff that doesn't make it to the free site, unfortunately. So I have been busy. It's just not, you know, I haven't been making that much free content. That said, we've got 4 videos in the pipeline with a partnership we did with Honda. And these are not my typical videos in terms of style and the projects. They're actually meant to be sort of quick weekend projects, mostly made with plywood and very accessible tools and techniques to get these things done. But there's a lot of filters those videos have to go through before they make it out to the public. So I'm hoping we'll have the first one out very soon. But there will be a total of 4 of those that will be released toward the end of summer here as we get into late July and August. So those should be pretty cool. I can't wait to get those out there. Sam Winchester wants to know how long I've had this YouTube channel. Probably 2006, maybe late 2005. I'm guessing 2006. Scott wants to know why I'm considering a move to Colorado. Because Colorado is more awesomer than Arizona. You know what? We're just over the heat, frankly, is what it comes down to. This place served its purpose for us, and we loved the time that we had here. But, you know, now with 2 kids and doing a lot more outdoor activities, we just kind of want to be in a place that has a seasonal, you know, the whole 4-season concept. And, you know, we've always liked the idea of the Colorado area. So timeline is up in the air. I have no idea. Never been to Germany. I was invited by the folks at Festool to go to one of their events in Germany, and I wasn't able to take advantage of it, which I was kind of sad about, but I've never been. Kai's noticing the acoustic panels on the ceiling. So if you flip up, you can take a look at those. The real benefit is for filming. It does make it a more pleasant environment if you're going to have conversations with people. It also makes the shop noise a little bit less resonant. If it's very echoey in here, every tool that makes noise is, multiplied by 1,000 if it's bouncing off the walls. So I don't know that I would necessarily put the money out for acoustic panels if this were just a regular shop. But because I do film in here, it definitely was a justifiable expense for me. Gustav is asking, saws have I owned? I had a Craftsman contractor when I first started. Then I upgraded to a PM66 that I bought used off of a friend of mine. And then I moved to the PM2000, so I'm on my third table saw. Riza Khan wants to know your main source of income is furniture? ? How long have you been doing that? No, that is not correct. My main source of income is what you're looking at right now. Maybe not live 360 videos, but making woodworking content for woodworkers and teaching people how to do woodworking is my main source of income. And I've been doing that since 2006. Boy, the YouTube chat leaves something to be desired, doesn't it? George, he says, I'm curious, what was the reason Festool is no longer a sponsor of the channel? They haven't been a sponsor for a very long time. If you want to read more about the whole situation that happened recently with Festool, I've got an article on the website, on my website, thewoodwhisperer.com, so just go there, search for Festool. The article is called What Happened with Festool, and that might satisfy your curiosity. Will I ever get a saw stop? Probably not. I mean, maybe, never say never. But, Powermatic is a sponsor of the show. They make fantastic saws. I had their saws prior to even doing a show, so I like the quality. I think when it comes to, saw stop, I think they make a great saw. So if you're in a market for a new saw, it's something you probably have to consider, but I'm not in the market for a new saw at this point. So, and that Powermatic saw is going to last me for quite a while. So I don't think it's something that I would push this one out to get, but obviously there's a point where if you're in the market, they're like the only that safety feature. I know there's the Bosch has that new one, but it's not in a cabinet saw format. So what I'd like to do is wait and see how this all pans out over time. I still think that there's, room for someone else to come in and to create some kind of competing technology. And I really hope that happens because I'd love to see all these great table saw companies that we know and love be able to compete in that market. And, only one solution for safety like that, for that extra safety feature, is not great for the market, I don't think. I'd love to see someone else do something with it as well. Stephen wants to know, having been so inundated in the craft, like being deep into the craft of woodworking the past few years, has it changed how I enjoy it? Well, I've been in this, at this level for, over a decade at this point. Woodworking is just part of who I am. And, like anyone else, there's times where I'm deeper into it and times when I'm, not as deep into it. And I think it's a matter of just listening to your instincts. I mean, there's times I have to work and I don't want to work, but I still love, like when I'm in here and it's just me and the project materials and I could throw on a podcast with some headphones and just get into it, I still love that. I don't think that'll ever get old. What gets a little bit trying for me are sort of the business aspects of what I have to do and the business side, which really has nothing to do with putting a tool to a piece of wood, right? So the woodworking is always going to be part of who I am, even if it has nothing to do with my business or money. It's just something I enjoy doing. Hey, Sean, I'm glad you were able to catch one of these live. We haven't picked the project this year for Woodworkers Fighting Cancer, so stay tuned for that, Sums. As always, we like to plan things as last minute as possible. Jordan wants to know, what table saw blade would I recommend for making tenons on a table saw? I ask because I get V-shaped grooves on my shoulders and cheeks. A couple things you can do. They make square grind blades, right? And you might find them as box joint blades, or like Forrest has a number 1 grind, they call it, and it's a square tooth grind. Those are awesome for that if you want a specialty blade. And some rip blades will also have a square tooth in the mix. So it actually winds up making a square cut. So a standard rip blade may be able to get you there as well. All those would be good options. Yeah, you know, I wish the video was a little bit clearer. I'm definitely disappointed. Even when you're getting the best out of this camera, it's still not great. So, you know, anyone who's watching this thinking Mark's going crazy because he's going down in quality, don't think that. That's not what is happening here. I'm just screwing around with a new camera for fun, just for fun. It's Friday. We're all here to have fun. And the other thing is, I think some of this may come down to post-processing. There's a lot of data that has to come from a multiple camera setup like this. So I'm guessing once YouTube gets a hold of it, I'm hoping once they process it, the quality will be a little bit better. So we'll see. Do you eat in your shop? David, sometimes. Not all the time. It's not like this is a destination for me to eat, but if I'm in the middle of a project, I may eat lunch in here. And you can see I do bring my coffee in here as well. Do you have more than one YouTube channel? Have you noticed the trend of creating second channels? Well, I don't. Technically, I do. I have my personal Gmail account, which has a YouTube account associated with it that I barely ever use. I have noticed the trend of creating second channels, but that's like a 5-year-old trend. That's been around for a long time. I think Drunken Woodworker makes something. I think he just made a second channel for the same reasons anyone makes a second channel. You know, that might be in our future at some point. At this point, I've got my hands full just putting enough content up for my first channel. One thing I don't like about that trend is I think people, and maybe it's a misunderstanding on my part on how this stuff works, but your channel sort of, it seems like it takes on a life of its own, so that the channel is no longer there to assist your purpose. It's there to serve an audience. And when an audience has a certain expectation for that channel, and you're really trying to streamline what you do on YouTube, it seems like the smartest thing to do if you want to do a talkie video is to make a second channel so you don't piss off all the people who like your regular channel. I'm at the point right now that I don't care enough. Like if I want to make a video about woodworking, as long as it's relevant, and I happen to talk for an hour, and someone doesn't like that, well, you know what? They're probably not going to like me very much anyway. I'm not too worried about streamlining things to make a second channel. That said, if we got to the point of content production where we were producing like so regularly, and we did establish a lot of expectation and schedules and content type on our main channel, then it might make sense to take that stuff and put it on a second channel so folks who are interested in that can subscribe. So I get the logic, but for me personally, it doesn't make sense right now because I'm just not producing enough on my main channel, and I know that. So, you know, I'd rather do this than make a second channel for it, if that makes sense. I have pets, yes. I have 2 dogs and 2 children. They're almost like pets. Jordan wants to know, do I recommend an open-ended or closed-ended drum sander? Well, open-ended, because the thing is, you're talking about, like, do you recommend Toyota or do you recommend Mercedes? Well, they're very different classes of vehicles, right? And they cost very different amounts of money. Generally speaking, if you want a closed setup where it's not a cantilever design drum sander, you're going to spend a lot more money. It's a whole different class. So for most of us, if you can even afford a drum sander, you're going to get an open-ended drum sander. And it isn't because of the functionality, because the theoretical idea that you can kind of put it in a super wide board, put it in, flip it around, put it in again. It's more because that's the affordable version, right? So most of the time I say go with the cantilever design. You're going to spend quite a bit for it anyway, and it will serve your purposes just fine. Nancy says she doesn't see too many clamps in my shop. Well, you haven't looked very hard. Maybe from this angle you can't see them. I do have a lot of clamps, Nancy, and if you go to my website at thewoodwhisperer.com, just search for clamps or clamp racks. You'll see articles on my storage solutions for those clamps. Cody, the Honda thing, I did cover that at the beginning, but the Honda thing is done. at this point in terms of the building. So right now it's a matter of just editing the footage, passing it to the next person, that person passes it to someone else. It's a much more involved process than when I make a video for my own purposes. So hopefully we'll have those videos out very soon. Rob wants to know if, when you're making projects, he wants me to comment on how much time it takes for them. Well, here's the thing. Not every project is created equal. I could spend months on a Maloof rocker, but I could do, like I was just talking about, these Honda projects I did in the back of a truck with plywood and some very basic tools. I knocked 4 of those projects out in a 10 or 11 day span. So it just depends on the caliber of project and your experience level. So some things will go quickly, some will go slow. But I would say my advice is to take your time with it, enjoy it. Unless you are doing this for money, who cares if it goes slow, right? Are you still having fun? Speed up when you can, when your skills take you to that point. But don't be afraid to take it at a slow pace. This is supposed to be recreational and fun. And if you're going slow, it must be because you need to go slow. So don't force going quicker, because you know what will happen? You'll screw up, and then you'll have to go back and do it over again. And the only thing worse than going slow is having to do things twice and taking even longer, right? So just keep that in mind. How do you go about flattening an end grain board? Well, there's always the hand plane route, right? And scrapers, but that's a nightmare. Sanding is a nightmare. If you don't have a drum sander, that's kind of what I consider to be the best solution. Look at the router flattening methods that are out there. I've got a video on how to flatten a workbench with a router, which can actually be applied to a cutting board. You have to keep in mind, though, the end grain kind of reminds me of carpet or like a suede couch where you rub your hand in a certain direction. You can make patterns. Well, your router bit kind of does that on the surface of the end grain. So even after you flatten with a router, you're going to have to do a substantial amount of sanding. Excuse me. Aldolfo Torres says, do you plan in the near future to upload new content to YouTube, or are you only dedicated to your guild? Well, here's the thing. Nothing is different than it has ever been concerning the free site and the guild in terms of, it makes me laugh when folks think that I'm just abandoning the free site. And I will never do that. I can't do that. The free site is so integral into who we are and our connection to the community. It's not going anywhere. The problem is with 2 kids and real life, sort of interfering, when I have to focus on limited things, I focus on the things that make direct revenue. Anyone with a business would do this. It makes sense. So I have to continue to focus on the paying members of the guild to make sure they are getting what they paid for. When time allows outside of that is when I tend to make the content for the free site. So we do have these Honda videos coming out very soon, and that's within days to weeks. Again, I'm not completely in control of the release dates on those things. So I will always continue making content for the free site. I'm in this for the long haul. I've been here for 10 years. I'm not going anywhere at this point. So anyone who doubts, what's going on with the free site, just take a deep breath. Nothing's happening. No major changes are taking place. But there are sometimes longer gaps between content than I'd really like. But I'm just one person, and I've got the guild paying side of things that needs to be satisfied first. And that might be a blunt way of putting it, but that's the honest truth. Amir, am I pronouncing it right? AMR, Amir, says, thanks for all the free content. Any promotions planned for the guild membership? We don't do that many promotions for the guild, just because we don't want people to just wait around for a sale, I think the stuff, while it's expensive in terms of free versus paid, right? It costs something. For what you get and the level of service that you get for the stuff, I think it's very fairly priced, especially if you buy the early bird bundles, which get you the projects at 50% off, right? So because the discounting is kind of built into the system, we don't really worry too much about that. Brian, I love this question. How do you deal with YouTube hate? Well, there are features available to content producers, one of which is hide users' comments on entire channel. It's one of my favorite things. So if there's an a-hole who decides they want to spew their a-holeness on the world, I deny them that privilege on my channel, and they just become silenced. So that's how everyone should probably deal with trolls and YouTube hate. The problem is, you know how it is, don't feed the troll, right? And as a producer, it's so tempting to get into the mud and roll around with the pigs. But it's so much more effective to not do that. So over the years, you know, I've had various levels of stress based on negative feedback from people online. And you just eventually learn how to deal with it on cruise control. And I think the best way is to not let it affect you by simply removing their influence. And that works for me, at least. Jerk of all trades. I'm only mentioning, I like the For the Horde comment, but I love your name. Jerk of all trades. That's fantastic. Well done. You know what? I don't want to make this a sales pitch for the guild. Someone is asking, what do you get with the guild membership? Just go to the woodwhispererguild.com. There's a video there. All the info is there. Again, not here to sell you guys on the guild. That's not what I do. So go check that out. Did you paint your workbench top? No. This is sort of like, what do you call this? Like a neoprene, almost like wetsuit material or a mouse pad material. Darn it, I can't remember the guy's website that gave this to me. Shoot, I feel really bad because he did gift it to me. But this is a great workbench top protector. You know, it's one of those nice creature comfort things for the shop, but it's got my logo in it down here. And more so than protecting my bench, because I don't care about protecting my bench, I like it for assembling things on the bench at the point where you don't really want to get them dented or scratched, and I like to sand on it. So a really cool versatile surface, but definitely not painted. Have I considered guest-produced content for the free site? Yeah, you know, but here's the thing. Yeah, Benchmat, thank you guys. Thank you so much. I feel a lot better about that now. If you have guests produce content on your site, it's a tricky thing because people who are capable of producing content these days are much more interested in producing content for their own channels. That's what YouTube has done, is it's empowered people to build their own audience. So even if that audience is small, most people feel it's better to invest time in their own channel than to produce a piece of content for someone else's channel, even if that channel has more subscribers than they do. So it's difficult to find people who are willing to do that and willing to do it on a regular basis. So the key is to find someone who maybe is interested in building stuff and can operate a camera, but doesn't necessarily care about the YouTube thing, so that I can have content produced that I could then have a hand in editing and putting on the website, right? So that is something that we're thinking about, is trying to get, there's a possibility my brother-in-law, depending on what's going on with our move, and he might move in the future, if we can get it all together, he's got enough skills that he could build, and then I could actually make these things very Wood Whisperer-like in terms of the editing and the shots. And I don't actually have to put the time in to build those projects. I can focus on my stuff so we can kind of double the amount of content. So that's definitely something we are thinking about and would love to do. It's just easier said than done in most cases. And I think a couple people kind of asked the same question. Simon asks a similar thing. I think I answered that. Next big project is a grandfather clock that's coming up this summer. Oh, thanks, Jeff. The fence is great. I've never really used the full potential of that fence and all that it can do, but just as a standalone fence, it works great, so it's still in the saw. I appreciate you helping me out with that. What else we got? Haha, Levi wants to know, any tips to get over nerves and sounding stupid in the video? Well, here's one helpful piece of information. I don't care if I sound stupid in a video. And I think learning to not care is a pretty important thing. I think people enjoy seeing folks who are genuine. So here's the problem. Not everyone is cut out to talk to a camera and be on video. So I'm not saying that's the case with you. But if generally speaking, when you're with a group of people and you're with friends, are you an animated personality, or are you the type of person who kind of just sits and waits till someone talks to you first, and then, you're engaged now, you can talk? You have to think about what your true personality is. And I think people relate the best to others when they are showing their true selves. And if you're trying to put on like, hey, everybody, look at me, I'm a woodworker, that people see through that, right? And most people don't enjoy watching that. So I think that's what's funny, with what I do, is I'm always who I am, right? And the reality is, sometimes I'm not the goofy, funny guy that I do with, with skits and things like that. Sometimes I'm pretty serious and I take my woodworking very seriously. Other times I'm a total goofball and I'll put on a nightgown and a wig and, sleep in a bed and do a 1-900 video, which is just a terrible, terrible thing. But I'll do it again. I promise you. The thing is, that's just who I am. And like anyone else, my mood, has an ebb and flow. And sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's just kind of, well, whatever, I'm here. So I think, honestly, if you can be your true self, that translates on camera and you'll be more comfortable in what you do because you're not pretending to be someone you're not, right? So I think that's the key. Now, realize you may find out that the person who you are may not translate well to entertaining people in video, and that's okay. If all you want to do is just teach people how to do things, fine. But you may not have a channel that just explodes in popularity because in order to do that, you have to provide good information and you have to entertain people at the same time. And if you can't do both of those things, it's a little bit tricky to grow a channel. I don't know. Valen asks, I wonder if you have ever glued wood on top of concrete stairs. Do you think gluing would work? I was thinking of half screwing the boards under. Honestly, I know when I'm out of my element, and that's out of my element. I imagine you can find some good information because a lot of hardwood floors are installed on concrete slabs. So I think if you look into how those are installed and how they allow for wood movement and whether or not adhesives are a part of the conversation, you could apply some of that to steps, keeping in mind that steps don't have as much width to worry about, so you might be able to get away with the adhesive. But it's out of my wheelhouse. I would definitely do some research. There's got to be some good information out there on that. My favorite tool in the shop, I don't know. I love all my tools. I'm a tool nut. I enjoy them all. Both that and the wood question are questions I have a very hard time answering. I don't know. I love almost every tool in the shop and every piece of wood that comes through the shop. Yeah, I did say moving, Dan. Oh, Scott, yeah, man. There's plenty of stuff that I'd like to make and just haven't had time. The way we make things now, everything has to go through this pipeline. And if there isn't time for it, then I can't make it. So there's so many little things just, for the family or things Nicole's requested that I would love to just stop everything and make. But I can't because I've got videos to edit today, or I've got, the next guild build to start designing and getting ready to build. So, it's tough, but there's plenty of things that I'd like to build. Nothing I could, throw out offhand, but it always is hey, Mark, can you do this little shelf unit in here? Yeah, sure. Let me put you on the 2018 schedule. Ken is talking about the cabinet behind me. He says, you said that you thought that the bins on the top were for you as opposed to drawers. How did that work out? It works out just fine. The things that are stored in there are not things that I need immediate access to or frequent access to. So it works out great. And as long as I don't, pollute it with stuff and put a bunch of things on top of it, it's easy to access. No doubt drawers would probably be better, but I did go for a quick, lazy solution for that. I will say that the way it works now is just fine. I'm not inclined to change it or get rid of it. Oh, my favorite project, again, it kind of goes along with the favorite wood and my favorite tool. My favorite project is typically the most recent one. Now, that said, I guess I can probably point out one of my favorites that kind of comes to mind as one of the things I was most excited about, and that's the hamper. And the only reason is because I had so much fun trying to figure out how those pieces would weave together, and it was a good problem-solving project. While it's not exactly the most impressive build I've ever done, I do think it was one of the most fun. So look for the woven panel hamper if you haven't seen that one yet. How long till I get a full sleeve on my left arm? I don't know. How soon can I get enough money to afford it? Bench-crafted bench vices worth the money. They are to me. They might not be to you. They're very expensive, but geez, they work great. I mean, even now, I haven't... Hey, you guys should be able to move over here and look at this. and I don't have to touch the camera. I haven't lubricated this thing in over a year, but part of the joy of it is that it's so heavy duty and it works so well that you kind of give it one swipe and it goes from, you know, fully open to fully closed. So it's a pretty nice setup, but you don't need it. It's just nice. Hey, John is here. What's up, Funk? Hey-yo. John is in the middle of putting up his new garage where he plans to start doing more woodworking. Yeah, I talked about Honda before, Tim. If you can, I don't know if it allows you to, but try to scroll back. It'll be the third time I'm talking about it, so I don't want to talk about it again. But kind of scroll back DVR style. You should be able to find it. Mad Max says, how difficult was it to start doing your videos on YouTube? Well, let me take you back to 2006. It was very difficult because upload speeds were very slow. We couldn't upload HD. It was only standard definition at the time at best. I think what you mean, though, like just in general, it was not that difficult. You take a camera, you film yourself doing some woodworking, you do some, you know, little bit of editing, and then you upload it. Frankly, when I first started, I wasn't really uploading everything to YouTube. So when I first started, I didn't upload to YouTube. It was very easy in that case. But yeah, it's not a difficult thing. I'm not sure if you're talking about the technical process or like the workload or the emotional process, but it's everyone's doing it, so it's not that difficult, especially now since you can make these things, you know, using a smartphone. You know, the barrier to entry is very, very small. Yeah, video is a little rough on these things, no doubt. What brand of bench chisels do I use? Well, behind me, I've got Fujihiro. These are Japanese style chisels, right, with the hollows in the back. I love these things. And then I've got some Marples chisels, which are what I call my knockaround chisels. Those are the ones that I don't really, if I'm like getting glue off of a surface, something that's a little rougher, I don't usually use them for joinery. And then I've got some mortising chisels, Lee Nielsen mortising chisels. Let's see, what podcasts do I listen to? Well, you know what? I'm hesitant to leave my app and look at them. But I listen to, I say this all the time, I listen to a lot of non-woodworking podcasts. So in my spare time, I'm also a big fan of comic books and video games. So I listen to just about everything on Scott Johnson's Frog Pants network. Scott's a good friend of ours. Morning Stream. It's a fantastic show if you're looking for a little morning commute show to listen to. Major spoilers. Steven is a good friend. We just actually saw Steven in Kansas when we were on a road trip. Let's see, what else? The HT guys, big fan of home theater, so I listen to those guys. But I do enjoy listening to Making It. So when I do want to listen to something related to, you know, woodworking or making things, I listen to Making It. And what's the interview podcast? I'm spacing. It's too early. Makercast, is it? Where the dude does really fantastic interviews. I was interviewed on there early on when soon after we first started. They're good. And my buddy Vic got me into the Freakonomics podcast, which is fantastic. Again, nothing to do with woodworking, but a really good listen. Valen says, have you build anything for your kids in the backyard? Always searching for new projects on that topic. I remember when your kids came about too. I just did recently. I built 4 in a row, like a Connect 4 game as a backyard game, but the Honda people, that's who I built it for, they took it. So I was kind of hoping I'd be able to keep it because my son really liked it, but they took it. So not really, and part of the reason is because things don't hold up very well out here in Arizona. Festool, worth the money? I'm going to give you a big fat that depends. Depends on you, depends on how much money you want to spend, and depends on the tool you're talking about. Ah, yes. Brain Pick with Bob Claggett. I like to make stuff. Yeah, that was a long time ago, too. That was pretty soon after Bob started, I think. What inspires me to woodwork? How do I get... That's a big question. What inspires me to woodwork at this point, it's just part of who I am. So I feel like if I didn't do woodworking, I'd kind of have something missing in my life. So I don't need that much inspiration. It's just part of what I do. How did I get introduced to it? That was basically when I bought a house and needed to do some baseboards, some basic things in the house, DIY stuff, and that kind of got me into using tools, and then furniture was a natural progression from that point for me. I think at this point, I'm probably going to take off here. For folks who are trying to control this, a lot of times if the camera is not sitting in the position you want it to, you can usually scroll with your finger. And I guess it depends on what device you're using to readjust like the home position of the camera. So if you're facing this way, you can kind of spin it around and then start from that point and move around. So the 360 technology is all, it's kind of new. We're just getting used to it. How's my hand tool cabinet holding up? Perfect. No problems. It's heavy duty. I mean, it's built with Baltic birch plywood. It's pretty much bulletproof-ish. Holding up just fine. Footprint, Jeff, is 60 by 30 of the shop. Scott has an interesting question. Do you have any big regrets with the channel / woodworking? Granted, we all have some, but if you could do one thing differently or have a do-over, what would it be? I don't really have any regrets. I mean, here's the great thing about being in this environment and producing content online. If you have a regret and you want to change something, change it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going down a bad path and you see that you made a mistake in the past, then fix it and move forward. This isn't the kind of thing where, if I had just made the slight different decision, my current situation would be so different. I don't really have anything like that. And I think anyone producing content today, it's never too late to make a change. Look at David Picciuto and his channel. Obviously, the drunken woodworker thing didn't pan out for him, and things changed, and he wanted to make a change, so he made a change. And obviously, it causes a little kerfuffle once in a while because the internet is the internet. But people get over it, and you move forward, and you keep making great content. So I don't think there's any reason to regret anything in terms of producing content. Now, woodworking, yeah, I mean, there might be some. I wouldn't even call it a regret. There's some, it's kind of like pondering what life would have been like if I had gone down this other path. That doesn't mean I regret what I did. It just means sometimes I wonder. And that would be, what if I never made a channel? What if I never started producing videos? Where would I be as a woodworker if all I did was focus on woodworking and not content production? So there's that thing that I think about. But I would not call that regret, because if I had to do it all over again, I would do it exactly the same way that I did. Because I like what we've produced. I like our channel. I like what the Wood Whisperer stands for. I love the people we work with. I love our audience, and I don't see why I would want to do anything differently. So that's that. All right. Well, a lot of the questions I'm seeing, guys, are in the beginning of the video. So if you want, scroll back. I think we've been doing this long enough at this point. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for experimenting with me in this 360 video. I realize it doesn't look the best, but it is what it is. I thought it would be fun, a little experiment, just because. Not looking to do anything crazy with it, but this is probably what I would do with it. Quick demos or live Q&A type things like this. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to hit the stop button here, see what happens.